Many areas like the local Boise market saw unbelievable growth in real estate values and market rents, creating a serious lack of affordable housing. This in turn has led local officials to make the hard decisions between keeping property owner rights or regulating in favor of renters. In today's video, we will see what the City of Boise and the state of Idaho are doing and why you might care as a prospective investor. Hi, it's Sylvia with My Wealth Builders Realty. If you have considered adding other investment opportunities to your portfolio, like residential real estate, but don't know where to start, you are in the right place. On this channel, we cover all things residential real estate, how to find that property that pencils, and what you should look for before you even start to search. And we even cover topics on government policies that might affect you once you become a landlord. If you are looking to invest in the Boise Metro of Idaho, keep listening. Will Idaho continue to be the freedom-loving state, or will it follow in the footsteps of high regulation states like California? And of course, if you would like to learn more, please reach out to our team. Housing affordability has really been a hot topic as of late. Low supply, high interest rates, high prices. What that translates to is more people renting and more renters competing for the low number of rentals available. So what to do? Well, in the City of Boise, which is the capital of Idaho, they recently passed several ordinances to try to protect the renter population. So what was in those ordinances? Number one, retaliation for repairs. And so of course, if a renter reported a safety violation or maybe just wanting to get something in their house that needed to be fixed, a landlord would not be able to retaliate against this renter by maybe not renewing their lease, maybe trying to evict them, etc. Now, number two, the return of their full deposit if the property was slated to be torn down anyway. So in some cases, the tenant would not be getting their full deposit back even though the property was going to be demolished. Number three, notice of landlord and tenant responsibilities. And so this one's a funny one. I looked into this. The City of Boise is currently drafting what this tenant landlord responsibilities document is going to look like. So if you have property that you are renting in Boise, you will be giving this to every tenant you have. So stay tuned for that. Now, this fourth one, actually, they didn't pass it right away when the other three were passed last fall. There was still some more discussion on it. So that fourth one, source of income discrimination. And this is where this gets a little dicey. So basically, the City of Boise said, if you want to look at a tenant's application and their source of income is government assistance, let's say like Section 8 or child support or alimony, you cannot discriminate against this tenant based solely on that verifiable source of income. A little background about Section 8. Section 8 began back in 1937 when President Roosevelt signed the first Housing Act. Now, this Housing Act created the United States Housing Authority, and this Housing Authority basically gave $500 million in loans to construct low-cost, affordable housing for low-income people. So these housing projects were built in certain areas of town. If you couldn't afford a traditional rent, you'd be able to rent there at a lower price. Now, what happened with this, unfortunately, is that in these housing projects, there was a very high concentration of poverty. In 1974, government decided to give financial subsidies directly to landlords in exchange for them holding their units also at low cost for these low-income tenants. Of course, that did not alleviate the high concentration of poverty. And so Congress, once again in 1983, passed the Housing Voucher Program. Now, the Housing Voucher Program was different in that in this case, the money was given directly to the tenant. The tenant could then choose where they wanted to live, no longer restricting them to these housing projects and allowing them to disperse within the city. In order to qualify for a housing voucher, your income must be 80% or lower of the median income. And normally, a tenant is expected to pay up to 30% of their adjusted gross income toward their rent. 9 million American households receive government assistance. In Idaho, that number is 11,544 households. And in the Boise metro area, which is where we are, that number is 2,800. Except for Boise, currently the choice is yours on whether you want to accept Section 8 or not. It is not uncommon to see Zillow ads that simply state, "No housing vouchers accepted." But what does it mean for you as a landlord if you chose to accept Section 8? Many investors choose to accept Section 8 because a big portion of the rent is mailed directly to them, ensuring that they're getting rent paid consistently every month. Plus, statistics show that once a Section 8 tenant is in your unit, they tend to stay for a very long time. How long? 10 years on average. This, of course, reduces the landlord's vacancy rate and the higher cost associated with a higher turnover. So you might say to yourself, I have a tenant that pays me on time every month and wants to stay for a really long time. What's the problem? Well, there are many woes that a landlord experiences with any tenant, not just those that are given government assistance. But for the purpose of this video, let's focus on the direct financial impact that you might experience should you choose to accept Section 8. So in order to determine what those financial impacts might be, we need to look at how the local housing authority operates. In the Boise metro area of Idaho, we have 2 local housing authorities, one in Boise and one in Nampa. So local housing authorities are tasked with determining the fair market rent that the program will allow. In order to use their voucher, a tenant must find a unit that does not exceed this fair market rent. So if you choose to accept Section 8, then your rent might be dictated by the housing authority. And Section 8 has been known to cap yearly rent increases, thereby instituting a sort of rent control for those who choose to accept Section 8. If you had a rental in a market like ours, where you saw double-digit growth to your rents, but also immense hikes to your property taxes, to your insurance costs, and the cost to repair or replace anything with this unit, you might want to consider more than the usual 3% increase to cover your costs. However, if you have a Section 8 tenant, that might not be a possibility for you. Additionally, there are yearly house inspections by housing authority personnel. Rumor has it that they have been known to withhold rent until the repairs that they call out in their inspection are made. Now, the obvious problem with these rising costs is that there might not be enough in reserves to cover these costs if you have capped rents. So clearly there are 2 sides to this coin. If you wanted to accept Section 8, there are the pros. You have a government agency that is sending you a check into your mailbox every single month, and that tenant is there for a long time. But this video addresses the right that you have to choose whether you want to accept or deny a tenant with government assistance programs that will tether you to certain restrictions that you might not have with a conventional tenant. Rent control on a statewide basis is not a thing in Idaho. So long as you have a contractual agreement between the tenant and the landlord, you can charge what the market will bear. Basic laws of supply and demand will determine whether you get your price or not. Also, keep in mind that Idaho has long been a proponent of lower government regulation, promoting business and personal freedoms. So long as you are operating within your rights, the government will stay out of your business. And that, my friends, is where House Bill 545 comes in. In direct response to the City of Boise's ordinances, Representative Brandon Mitchell drafted this bill. The bill covers 2 important items. Number 1, no city in Idaho can pass regulation forcing landlords to accept a federal government program, like Section 8. Second, no city can force landlords to comply with any local government program that regulates fines, fees, or deposits. So it sounds like the state of Idaho is looking down the road at what this regulation could open the doors to, and it does not like what they see. Representative Mitchell emphasized that in other parts of the country where certain regulations like this one are being passed, it's actually having a negative effect. In fact, New York City right now has upwards of 13,000 units that are sitting vacant because the landlords are not able to make the repairs to these older buildings at the rents that they're being forced to take. Further, this type of regulation could disincentivize new development in areas where it's sorely needed. As of this recording, the bill has passed the House, and is sitting with the Senate. If it passes on the Senate, it will move on to the governor's desk. If passed, this bill will overturn the City of Boise's ordinance on Section 8. So what are your thoughts on the matter? Do you currently own property in one of these high regulation states? Do you have any tricks for keeping your cash flow intact? And if you own rentals in our state of Idaho, what do you think about this bill? As a previous California landlord, I saw the writing on the wall where my rental was, and I promptly moved my money to Idaho. If you find yourself in the same boat and would like to make a change, please reach out to our team. We are ready to help you take your money to where it treats you best. Let me show you how Idaho might be just the place for you.